This is Larry Hankin. Guess where I am? Well, I'm at home, but I'm chatting with Staxx. Check it out. He's cool.
Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Larry Hankin. What's up, Larry?
Well, so far nothing, which is kind of cool. We were just talking about the weather. Nothing's happening, and that's fine with me. That's okay.
I know it's pretty crazy all over the country. It's insane.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of relaxing for me. I mean, what's going on, because I can just take it easy, go for bike rides, and write. I'm a writer now. I don't.
Yeah. So
don't do
the
it
writer's strike, how is that affecting you? Is it affecting you at all?
It doesn't, because I'm writing. They can't stop me from writing. I'm a writer. I'm not a seller. I'm not a streamer. I'm just a writer. They can't touch me. So I just sit home and I write. And it's kind of cool. I'm writing another book. I wrote one book called That Guy. It's on Amazon, That Guy. It's, wait a minute. Do I have it? Let me see if I got it right here. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay. See, that's it. So I just wrote that. And
yeah, you have 5 stars on there. Or
like
what was it?
Stars.
10 stars on Amazon.
Really
Insane.
It's funny. It's about my life in show business, which I'm trying to escape from. Yeah. There's no escape from show business. Once you're in, what is that, the line? You try to get out, and once you get out, they pull you back in.
So yeah, how did it all begin for you? That's why we're here, is to peel the onion back a little bit.
Okay. Well, I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, so I guess that's the bedrock of it all. Maybe you have to have a dysfunctional family to be in show business as a performer. I mean, everybody who I know who's a performer, and well known, or demi well known, they come from kind of dysfunctional families. I mean, maybe that's a prerequisite. When you audition, were you in a dysfunctional family? No. Next. I mean, it's that simple. Okay, so I started a dysfunctional family. I didn't get along with my father at all. So I pretended that I had no father. I mean, that's how bad it was. That I was an orphan. And my mom was cool. Now I could be wrong about this, because I've talked to my sister. Now, we grew up together, same family, same parents. And she thinks I'm kind of hard on Dad. But I kind of say that my dad was kind of hard on me. Okay. So then, so I went to, they wanted me to go to college, which I didn't want to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to do that, go to college. I mean, to me, it was just more school is what it was. And I didn't want to go to school anymore. But so I went to Syracuse, and, like, I'm a good student. Well, if you point me in front of something and you say, you just got to do this, then I'll just do it, man. I mean, I don't have I'm not lazy, and that's what I think. I don't know. Lazy, that's a kind of a bad word nowadays, lazy. I think
it's who's telling you who.
Yeah, it depends who's using the word.
Yeah.
But so I went and I got great grades. I became an industrial designer. I wanted to be a painter. See, those are my paintings up there. So I wanted to be a painter. That's what. But they didn't want no art, no curiosity, no color, none of that. See, that was the dysfunction. So when I graduated, my roommate, my best friend, wasn't my roommate, but my best friend was Carl Gottlieb. Now, he wrote all the Jaws movies. So I was heading in the right direction. I didn't know it at the time. But he was in the drama department, and I was in the the industrial design department, which was part of the art school, but it had nothing to do with art, man. Don't let them fool you. That's what fooled me. You know, I read Syracuse University had an art school, and in the art school was an industrial design department. That's what I read, design. Okay, that's art. So I said, okay, I want to go to Syracuse, and they sent me there because they were very middle class. And I did okay because that was what was in front of me. I mean, I couldn't escape. I didn't think in those terms. But when I graduated, I said, I'm done with industrial design. I'm done with school, and I'm done with family. Which that's not a good thing, really.
Did you have a job? Did you have
I had
anything set up to
nothing, man.
support yourself?
Nothing. I just said, it's over. I'm out. That was it. And that, if I had thought what you had thought, what's next? I probably wouldn't have done what I did, and I wouldn't be here talking to you. But since I had no plans whatsoever, and I was starving, literally, Carl said, why don't you be my roommate? We'll go to Greenwich Village, because I didn't even know where in the country or the world I wanted to go to. I was in Syracuse University. I went home. I graduated. I, said to my parents, okay, this is probably well, I didn't really say that to them, but I thought that. I said, this is probably the last time you people are going to see me. And I just went. And I just headed for Greenwich Village, where Carl had rented an apartment. We graduated at the same time. So and I just went there, and he guaranteed me one month's rent for free. In other words, if I couldn't pay a month's rent, he would lend me a month's rent, but he would only lend me 1 month's rent. After that, he was going to get a new roommate. I mean, he was very stern about it.
Yeah.
But I dug it. So I bust a bar for money from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. I just cleaned up peanut shells for 4 hours. I swept up and I straightened it all up. So then I slept, most of the day, and then waiting to go to work, I went to these coffee houses. Now, Carl had a real job. Carl wanted to be a writer. I'm only a writer now, so it's like 70.
Yeah, so this is a long time ago.
60 years
he
ago.
was doing what you're doing now.
Well, but he was really at it. I mean, he went to work. He worked at a newspaper. He wanted to be a screenwriter, but any kind of writing that brought in money. So he worked at a newspaper, just a local small one, just a couple of blocks in downtown Manhattan. But we lived in Greenwich Village, and so I was going to coffee houses, and I saw these comedians, and I was a funny guy in high school, and in public, I was just a funny guy. I mean, it was a way to get along, make friends. So I said, geez, I can be as funny as these people, because it was like, it's coffee house. It was just, you get 3 minutes. Open mic nights, you get 3 to 5 minutes. So I'd get up there and I'd do 3 to 5 minutes. And the great thing about coffee houses, this is the great thing, and I always remember it, and it helped me, and I wish it was like that again, and more people thought this way, is it didn't matter how not funny you were. What they were trying to do was get as many people on stage in 3-minute bits on these open mic nights, not on Friday or Saturday, but during the week. And to get on stage, you had to sign up and bring 5 friends, or they wouldn't let you on the stage for your 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's how they got customers, man.
Yeah.
So,
but it was drinks and everything.
Yeah, well, there was it's coffee. That was all. But,
yeah.
A sandwich or something like that. Okay, but the thing was that there was also a plus for the performers, that the owners of the coffee houses, and there was just a million coffee houses in Greenwich Village at that time. every 5 stores would fifth store would be a coffee house. Was that since you had to bring 5 friends or 2 or 3, I mean, then there was a negotiation about friends. Well, I only have 3. All right, I'll fucking come on in. So, I mean, it was negotiations all the way around. But they wouldn't, if you didn't have, you just get up there and you did your 3 minutes. And if it wasn't funny, nobody booed, nobody heckled, because they shut up and they just waited. It's 3 minutes, you know? So, all right.
They were
don't
respectful
bust
of
the
each
guy's
other.
balls. What?
Back then. They were respectful of each other back then.
Well, it wasn't respect. It was a veiled threat that they didn't know was being threatened. And that was, if I boo this guy has at least 3 friends here, and they're going to boo my guy.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay, let's just be quiet and nice and let everybody do their 3 minutes. So that was cool. As a performer, I appreciated that. You know, I don't care why they're shut up. They just let me do my 3 minutes, and you know, you get better as you keep on doing it. And I was running from coffee house to coffee house. I mean, I just didn't do one coffee house and that was it, my 3 minutes.
Yeah,
I would
handing out
sign up in
flyers and
all
stuff.
of them in succession. So I would sign up for like 8 o'clock here, but 9 o'clock there, 9:30 there, 10 o'clock there, you know. So and I would just go from coffee house to coffee house doing the same thing, and I would learn each time, because I mean, basically I am kind of a funny guy in that I didn't take any lessons going to high school or college. You just, you see funny things and you say it. So I was building a little blah blah blah, little hunks and stuff.
But it's just a hobby for you at this point, though, right?
No, I had nothing else to do, and all I was doing was cleaning bars from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And this was keeping me awake and ready to go to work. This was my pre-work schedule.
Yeah.
3 minutes in about as many coffee houses as he could until you had to go at 2 a.m. last call. So that was a ritual. It had nothing to do with me being in show business, but I was being funny. I mean, I was getting better and better. So I was thinking, well, I'll do this for the rest of my life. The rest of my life was I would do 3 minutes in coffee houses. In other words, I didn't think in the future at all. It was always now. It was like a dog.
Did you ever get paid for it back then?
Well, eventually what happened was, and I didn't do it for long because I was getting really good. And see, that was the luck. In other words, I was an actually funny guy. It took me being on a stage for an audience is different than being funny for your friends. There's no comparison. It's not the same. But I was getting better, so that I was. So it only took me 6 months of doing that before I got a manager. Now everybody this is the secret of Greenwich Village. Nobody in Greenwich Village at the time, and I still think today, I don't know, it's all changed now, but wherever you are doing 5 minute or 3 minute open mic things, and they're all over the country now. It's starting again. Comedy is starting to become big again. It's like in the 60s. You're gonna, by the way, just a side piece of advice, or things that I've noticed from the 60s that I now notice now. Comedy is getting big now, and you got these little coffee houses. They're not coffee houses, they're whatever, because they serve liquor now. But they're venues. They're called venues. Little nightclubs, little tiny nightclubs. Old days of, and so the comedy is getting big, but also the politics are getting big now, and also so look out now for. I don't know if you remember the 5 people that died in Kent University in the 60s. They were shot by American troops, who were called out by President Nixon. And, and the 60s, and the long hair and the beatniks and politics and the bomb and the war. And
I remember the stories. I wasn't around back then, but
right.
I remember the stories.
But 5 people got shot. Finally, that kind of was the bubble that burst. 5 people got killed. 5 students who were protesting got shot by American troops, pulled up, called out by Nixon, and they got shot and they got killed. And that was a big thing, and it really affected. I was in show business at the time. It affected everybody. It affected what we talked about and what the humor was. But it happened. I'm saying that that's going to happen. Or not that it's going to happen, but the stage is set for the exact same thing to happen. Now, we may have learned something since the 60s. Maybe. But Nixon wasn't Trump. So the politics has grown. So the protests have grown. And if 5 people died then, who the fuck knows what's going to happen now? I hope nothing will happen now. You know. See, here it's fine. The sun's out. It's 78 degrees. Nothing's happening.
Yeah.
See, but everybody in Santa Monica may be fooled. Maybe I'm being fooled. So let's go on with my history. But that's just what I noticed. It's getting like back then. Everybody's got choosing sides, you know. Okay, so the difference is back then there was Dylan, and now there's Swift. What's her first name?
Yeah.
Oh, there's, you know, so there's a little difference.
Yeah.
But she's as big as he was then, now. So there is a difference. Okay. So I got a manager and he started booking me into clubs. So now I'm a club comedian, and he even had to buy me because I was broke, man. Because they passed a hat. That's how he got paid. And then if you work Saturday,
you're living off donations, basically.
Yeah, donation. They passed a hat, so you get like $5 for the 3 minutes, maybe. But they divided among like 7 people, so it wasn't much money. But in the nightclubs, I would get paid, $100, $200, $300. So that was kind of cool. And then I started opening for really big people. And then I did the Playboy Club. I opened for Woody Allen. So I had to be funny, man. I was opening for Woody. I was opening for Miles Davis. I mean, so I was, I had arrived, but I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
How did these guys treat you when you were there?
As the opening comedian. Miles Davis loved me. Okay, let me separate that. He loved me in the fact that he always came and stood in the back and watched my show before he went on. So he would come out and listen to me. And as we passed each other, either backstage or going out into his nightclubs, he would say, "Hey, good show," or "Hey, man, you're really funny," or he'd say, "Hey, that guy's really funny." But that was the only connection. I mean, we didn't hang. He just would. I'd notice him standing over, listening, or he'd say, "Hey, that thing you did about the motorcycles, that was pretty cool." So I knew he was listening. Okay.
Yeah.
But that was all, and that's the only kind of, because there's no time. They're either rehearsing, no matter what the act was, Peter, Paul, and Mary, or a singer, whatever. There isn't that kind of. It's I go on, they go on, and I go home or they go home, whatever. Okay, so that was pretty good, but I didn't like it, and what I didn't like was sometimes people laughed because they didn't come to see me. I was unknown. I was the opening act. You don't come to see the opening act. You come to see Miles Davis. And when Miles Davis opened, and I opened for 2 weeks, and he had to approve of me, so he came to see me. I don't know, either the day before I came. I don't know how he saw me. Maybe it was the opening night of his opening night. He watched me. He said, "Who's the opening comedian?" They said, "Larry Hankin." I said, "I don't know." He said, "I don't know who that is." So he came and he watched my show before he went on. And I didn't know this, but he was the only one who had this, but he had in his contract that he had to approve of his opening act. And some nightclub people have that. They either can pick their own opening act and who is it? Some opening acts travel with their comedian. Frank Sinatra, like he travels with his opening act. You don't give him an opening act. He has his guy. We do a show, you know. So he came and see me, and he approved of me, which I thought was a great honor. That Miles Davis approved that I could open his show for 2 weeks. That was amazing. Yeah, I mean, because you know I'm a fan.
You're on the flyer and everything, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, maybe. I don't remember that. I don't think they gave out flyers either back in those days or that nightclub. That was either Cellar Door in Washington, D.C. So, that was a great honor because that was Washington, D.C., the Cellar Door. He was 2 weeks. And one night we heard about the second night or third night of a 2-week run, we heard that President Kennedy was going to come to see the show. I go, whoa, man. I'm going to perform for President Kennedy. So, but he wouldn't. They wouldn't say because of the protection. You know, they wouldn't say what night or which show. You know, we did 2 shows a night, so they didn't say. And then one night, I was on. You know, blah blah blah. We were always wondering, well, when is he coming? What night is he coming? And I think the first Saturday, I did the open. I opened. I killed. I opened. I did very well. I came off the stage, and the stage manager, one of the waiters, came over, and because I came out, I would watch Miles Davis. I mean, I would come out and just listen to the music. So I would be sitting there listening to him, and a waiter came over and said, "Kennedy's here." Kennedy's here. Where? And he said, "Way in the back." He was way in the back. He was like kind of hidden in the back there. Good seats, but he had an entourage. I mean, his wife was there. What's her name? Kennedy.
Jacqueline, right?
Jacqueline was there. His brother Bobby was there, and they were surrounded by, you know, FBI or whatever, you know, bodyguards.
Secret Service. Secret Service, right?
Yeah. No, I didn't see any of it. He just pointed and he said, and I just saw a cluster of people. I didn't see it was Kennedy or Jackie or whoever, but I saw, okay, over there. And there was a nice niche, which I always had in, because there was little stairs. There's about 5 stairs where you could go up, and they just sat above. There was it was because of a nightclub. So there's the tables down here, and then there's a little balcony, you know, just above the heads of everybody else, so you could see.
Yeah.
So, and they was on the balcony in the back there. Okay. So so I stayed for the whole show, for his whole show, the second show. And then I saw everybody cleared out, and I just stayed in my little niche in the little stairwell, the little 5 steps up to the balcony there. It wasn't really a rise. And I just sit and I hid there, which is where I used just to sit, just to listen to Miles. And all of a sudden, this cluster of people came down and stood right in front of the nightclub stage. And then I saw Kennedy and Jackie and Bobby, and they were all talking, and they were kind of surrounded by the Secret Service. And then they saw me. Somebody saw me, you know, in this group, you know. And so then Jackie and Kennedy and Bobby, they waved, you know, good job. So I got my chops. Yay, great, man. They saw me.
That's awesome.
Okay. And then Miles came out, and he disappeared into the middle. And there was this one bit, I just got to tell you, man, there's this one bit where I did this motorcycle thing where I said, people on these motor scooter policemen with the tickets, they ride around on motor scooters and they give a ticket. I said, they become Hell's Angels when they get off the force. And I say, you know, it goes from, you know, vroom, vroom, which is the motorcycle engine. I said, they start off with, you know, and then they graduate to, you know, Harleys. And so that was that little hunk that I did that Miles liked. And Miles is very short. So he disappeared in that group, that scrum. But at one point, but they were all listening to him, and he was talking, and they were shaking it. And then at one point, he raised up on his tippy toes, and I could see his head. And he's because he knew that I was always there. He knew,
Yeah.
so he looked over, so he looked over, he looked at me, and he just went, yeah, and he's talking to Kennedy and Jackie and all these people, and he goes, and he goes back down.
That's
I thought
hilarious.
that was so cool. That was so cool. So that's the good parts. The rest, I mean, I didn't like the traveling. I didn't like, because they come to see Miles, they like me, whoever, the audience. But, I was opening also for the Kingston Trio and Miles and Woody Allen, and they weren't my audience. I was Lenny Bruce, and Richie Pryor and George Carlin. And back in those days, they didn't exist practically. No, they were obscure comedians back then. So when I opened for Woody, they just didn't laugh, that's weird. Or they would laugh, kind of, but not anything like I was used to. And then for the Kingston Trio, they came at me with beer bottles, get the fuck off the stage. Whoa. So and it wasn't even, it was more bad than good, because the country was right wing. I mean, it was the 60s, man.
Was there a lot of hostilities when you would perform sometimes? The crowd,
I mean, some guy was going to hit me with a beer bottle upside down in his fucking fist. He came here. Thank God there was a big, huge dance floor. It was a nightclub. So there's a big, huge dance floor in front that nobody was dancing on because I was the stand-up comedian. I'm on the stage, and out of the dark, I hear, "Bring on the Kingston Trio." Yeah. So I just hollered back, no, I got 20 minutes. I want to just finish my act, just okay. And I went on with my act. I said, "Hey, bring on the Kingston Trio." I said, "No, wait, they'll come on after me." And then I heard a chair move.
That noise.
And, and then out of the darkness across this big, huge dance floor, I see this big bohunk come at me with a beer bottle upside down in his hand. And he said, "I said, bring the fucking," I don't think he said fuck, because I was saying fuck. He wasn't. He said, "Bring on the Kingston Trio." And he's coming at me with this beer bottle. And it gave me enough time to I got off the stage. Okay, I'm off.
It's like, oh, man, you can have it, man.
So the bartender, I went over and I sat at the bar. So the bartender came over and he said, "Hey, man, you got like 10 more minutes. And I go, "Did you see that guy come at me with the beer bottle?" He said, "Yeah, you got 10 more minutes. I said, "I'm not going out there until you get rid of that guy." He said, "You got 10 more minutes. You get out there or you're fired." So I said, "I'm fired." And I just walked out. I mean, I don't take shit. I mean, I don't give any shit. Yeah. But I don't, and I don't need his guff. I guess I don't take guff. I didn't take his lip. I just said, "Fine, I'm out." And I just walked out, So I called my manager, who was Woody's manager. I mean, this guy had power. Woody was getting really big then. He was doing TV.
Was he mad? I
said, "Okay, it's over."
Was he angry or no?
My manager?
Yeah.
No, he understood totally. I mean, he knew what I was doing. He knew. He was probably very surprised that I was getting away with what I was getting away with, that I lasted so long. But I said, "Hey, man, they're coming at me with beer bottles, man. They're really angry. They're not coming after Woody." And he goes, "Woody Allen doesn't curse on stage." That's what he said. "Woody Allen doesn't curse on stage. Woody Allen has TV material." I thought, "What is TV material?" I don't write back then. I didn't write anything. I would just get up on stage and talk about my day. And if fuck or shit or piss came out, fine. I mean, it was conversational. It wasn't.
But back then, it was controversial to say things like that, right?
Yeah.
It was.
So I said, "What am I going to do? I'm not going to do this anymore." I told him. I said, I'm not doing stand-up anymore. I'm out. That's it. Forget it." So I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not doing that. So he said, my manager, said, well, why don't you join Second City? They're doing exactly what Pryor is doing, exactly what Lenny is doing, but they own the theater, so cops can't come in there. And even if they did, they have to pay and they can't pull you off the stage. So do that. So I said, okay, I will. So I auditioned for Second City. I auditioned for Second City. And I got in. And because I'm a funny guy. And that's what I've been told over and over. So I got in, and that's how I got into acting. In other words, I went to Second City. They sent me down to St. Louis for about a year, just working there. I was in Second City, and we were a big hit. We had lines around the block, and then for a touring company of Second City, but they held us over for a year. We went down there for 3 months.
Where are you
and they held
staying
us
at
over.
during this time? Are you in hotels, bouncing around? Like,
Well, when I was doing a stand-up, I would be bouncing around in hotels. I would fly and I would book the hotels and I would pay for the flights, but I would get enough money as a stand-up comedian to pay for all that, plus, more money. So I'd get, so it'd have to be at least $1,000 or $2,000, but it would go for hotels and food. I mean, you have to live in a hotel for a week or two, and then food every day and stuff like that. Getting your suit cleaned. I had to, work in. He bought me a tuxedo. My because I work in a Playboy Club. He finally booked me into the Playboy Club. They were cool. I could do anything I wanted in the Playboy Club. They even booked Lenny Bruce, I think it's at some point. But anyway, I got out. So I joined Second City, and I went to St. Louis for a year. I was there for a year, and then he brought me up. This is Paul Sills, the director, who owned the Second City, and he brought me to Chicago. So I was on the main stage in Chicago for about a month, and then we had too many people. We had 9 people. That's too many for improv. I mean, I'll admit that. 5 people. For some reason, that works, because 9 people, you don't get enough work because you're always improvising. So, hey, would you work with me? Yeah, it's a flow thing. It's hey, would you work with me? No. Okay, would you work with me? Or who wants to do this scene? So, but 9 people, you would sit. Sometimes nobody would call you except for 2 scenes for like 3 hours or 2 hours. So you're just sitting there. It's not, so 5. So they let me go. So I wasn't fired, but I was let go. But I hung around there, and finally this guy came through, a former director of Second City, who also had been let go because they had too many directors. So he said to me, why don't you come to San Francisco and we'll start our own company called The Committee. So that's what I did. So I went there, and we had lines around the block. We had a whole company. Lines around the block.
You guys would hire the people and have them there?
No, I was just hired by Alan Meyerson, the guy, the director who was driving from New York, where he had been let go, through Chicago to pick me up because he heard they had just let go another improviser. But he thought because to get on the main stage of Chicago, you had to go to school. There's no kidding around. You don't just get up there and start improvising. You had to go to school. And Paul's mother, Viola Spolin, who was like that Russian actor, old guy, I don't know, Lee Strasberg. Viola Spolin, Paul Sills' mother, Second City. Viola Spolin was the Lee Strasberg of improv. I mean, she was the muck-a-muck. She's the best you could get. So she taught the school for Second City in Chicago. And I had to go to that school with many of the members who were on the main stage. It didn't matter if you were on the main stage or not. You had to go to school. You had to go at least 2 or 3 days to her class. And I would sit in the back with one of the working members of the company, Del Close, it's famous among improvisers. And he would just tell me how she was full of shit. because he was working. He was also a director of Second City, and he was going to her class, and he was on the main stage, and he was telling me, now she's teaching a class, and he's saying bullshit, And years later, he wrote a book, and you could tell he read her book assiduously. I mean, he was telling me bullshit, but he was
feeding the same stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he was like a sponge. But, okay. Anyway. So that's how I got into acting. So that's like the full circle. In other words, Second City, and then we went to San Francisco, and then we had lines around the block. Alan hired all the other people, and we trained them, but only for a short while. And everybody had worked in Second City. He picked up the flotsam and the jetsam of people who had worked in New York
you met
or
quite
Chicago.
a bit of people during this time.
Oh man, yeah. But the hook of San Francisco was that it was only $35 round trip plane flight from LA to San Francisco, where it was like a couple $100 to Chicago from LA, and you had to stay overnight and maybe a couple of days. And the difference was amazing.
Yeah.
And then the hours of flight time. So anybody that we wanted to see in LA, if we flew down and tried to get an audition, we couldn't get in because we were unknown. But they would fly up to watch our show and hire us because they thought we were so great. So I go, wow, man, what a gift. I mean, if we go down there, nobody wanted to know us, but they flew up and hired us, for really good roles too. So that's how I got into acting. And then finally you go down, and then they start paying you enough money so that you don't go back. And
yeah, so you stay away from the
you stay away from your source. You stay away from where the good stuff is, and you just are locked into this bullshit of LA movies. And only now, but you have to be like, like a star, a major box office draw to get any kind of good parts. The rest, I mean, I watch television. I would never do the stuff that I see. Acting. Take the roles that I see. Just there's cop shows and what's her name? Swift. I can never remember her first name, man.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. There's cop shows and Taylor Swift ripoffs, knockoffs. Even in the commercials. I mean, so I'm a writer.
What was your first role? What was your first acting role that you landed that was like major that you're
Something,
like, wow?
Nothing, I don't know. You do auditions and you do auditions and you do auditions, and it just goes in one ear and out the same ear. I don't even let it in my head. She has a talk show now. I don't know. I don't remember names. It's so long ago. But and then That Girl was one of the old shows that I was on, and I watched it a couple of years ago. I mean, years and years from when I did it, and it was. I mean, you wouldn't know me from a hole in the wall. I mean, I would watch it and I'd see me, but I was dressed ordinary. I played an AD, an assistant director, and it was a television show episode where you see the workings of a TV show, and I was an AD. So I was dressed in ordinary, regular Hollywood normal clothes, kind of 60s-ish. And I said, hey, everybody, go over there, or okay, the lunch is served here, or you go on next. I mean, just nothing that you could get into, really. I was like an extra that talked. That was, and I got billing, and Larry Hankin. But those are the kind of roles I had for 2, 3. This was the 70s. Now we're talking about the 70s when I was living in LA and doing auditions. So this is about 1975. So this is 2023. I mean, that's like asking a child of 5 what they did. How is school when they're 40 or 50? I mean, the difference.
What about this role?
That was my first role.
Escape from Alcatraz.
That was in 1975, 72, 73, between 72 and 75, somewhere in between there, where I was hired and then when it came out. So there's like a year and a half difference. So, okay, that was a co-starring role. I mean, after doing, you go over here and you go over here, just these ordinary, dumb, talking extra roles, I auditioned for that, and it was a mistake that I auditioned for that, but I got the role. And the reason I got that role was because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Because I had been auditioning for talking walk-on roles. So I didn't know how to break down a role or, break down a movie into sections and how your character grows. I didn't know any of that stuff. So I didn't even audition. I mean, they just said, get down there. That was my instructions. Larry, Clint Eastwood is starting a big, huge movie. It's going to be really big. And they're looking for people. Go down there right now. I mean, the whole thing was just rushed. What are you doing right now? Nothing. Get down there right now. They're closing in an hour. They're shutting down in an hour. And this is a half hour to a 45-minute drive to the Valley to audition. So drop everything, get down there. Well, what's the role? Well, what's my side? They wouldn't even give me any sides or anything, nothing to read. I mean, I said, what's my part? Just get down there. They'll tell you everything when you get there, which I believed. So I hop, I get a lead-footed down there. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know what's going on. And I get there and there's nobody there. I'm the only guy there. I mean, it's empty. It's just a building and there's a secretary. And she says, what are you doing here? And I walk in, just escape from Alcatraz. Yeah, what are you doing here? I said, well, they told me there was an audition here, I say, yeah, no, there's nobody here.
If you guys like that interview, press the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Part 2 will be out this week. Stay tuned. I got a lot of stuff dropping. Larry Rolla will be up next. So hit the like, subscribe, notification bell. If you want to see part 2, you will be able to see part 2 right now on members only. So if you join the membership, you'll be able to see part 2 right now. So hit the like button, subscribe. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my day, and I hope you guys enjoy your day. Be safe out there. And remember, don't be a bitch. Peace.